be able to communicate with, easily.
Just having him come back, knowing this whole defense, I mean, how is it how much easier to make this transition that you'd have to really reteach or go over everything with a new hire and kind of go back to square one with a new coach?
Yeah, I think that made it very easy. Although, this off season we kind of went back through everything and tightened the loop, if you will, and made some install tweaks and things we could correct better, things we talked about with some other, guys from the NFL and some other colleges. So we kind of went back through everything, but it was good with him that where the whole group is going back over and reinstalling, if you will, but we don't have to tell him every single word we're saying because he knows the verbiage, the language. He knows the, the glossary already, so it was good that way.
When you look at this, I mean, obviously it's critical. You lose Darian Daniels and the Davis twins. And then you look at what you have. How do you, what's your early assessment of your front three?
Well, I think that's a position where, like you said, we lost some really good players. But that's a position where I think there's a wealth of young talent. And so we just have to figure out who can help us the earliest and the most. And I think we're going to need all those guys, but who's going to be ready early? Who do we need to get more reps to? You got the guys that obviously we've recruited as freshmen that are becoming redshirt freshmen or maybe even redshirt sophomores right now. Ty and Casey and Tate and Mosai and those types of guys. And then also you got, Jordan Riley and Jakeem Green in there from JUCO. And then you still got Ben Stilley in there to lead and Damian Daniels. So it's a good mix. It's a good group, but I think those guys have an opportunity to be every bit as good as the Davises and Darian. I know those are big shoes to fill, but I think there's some talent there and there's some length there and there's some good size and skill there.
What do you want to do on nose? You lost Darian, Carlos played a lot of nose, obviously Damian's back, but how do you kind of find that group to play that nose spot this spring?
Yeah, and I think, after, Damian, we're going to have to try to find who's the best job swapper because a lot of those other guys can play at end or tackle and some nose. So I think it's going to be like you're back to your question to kind of meld them both. It's going to be how can we get the best three and then the second best three in the game. Does somebody else have to play nose that maybe isn't a real nose just to get the best six on the field? So I think that's through spring. Coach T is going to do a good job of, Ty Robinson, just throw out a name, is going to play some nose and some end and some tackle, and some of the other guys are going to do the same thing just so we can find out who is that guy.
Damian only gave you guys about 16 snaps a game on average over the year. I mean, you challenge him and say, look, we need you more this year. You got to get yourself a higher snap count.
I mean, that's the challenge for him, and he knows that. I mean, the 16 snaps he give you are really good. Some of those snaps, like he's throwing guys around, but then he burns gas really fast. So, he's got to get his stamina up where he can give us, upwards of 30, 40 snaps a game. Sure. There is some guys in the back end that can do a lot of things. Obviously Cam Taylor-Britt is a guy that can probably play all 4 or 5, the nickel spot, safety. Deontay Williams could play corner tomorrow if you had to, and obviously DiCaprio Boodle's had a lot of experience playing all those things. I just think in the spring, Coach Fisher's kind of got a little bit of work cut out for him just from a sheer numbers perspective back there, so I think he's probably going to have to put guys more at one spot and let them kind of master that, especially with those young guys that we got in the room. So those older guys are going to have to fill some holes in for us. So we're going to have to put those young guys, they're going to have to stay at one spot and learn that spot, and then those older guys are going to have to kind of duct tape the whole thing. Yeah, and I think you're seeing that right now. We saw that today with the older guys. Nothing fazed them. They went out and operated. The young guys are frozen a little bit out there at times, but you want to get to the point where you got the best 11 on the field. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter what defense we want to play. If we got whatever package we need to put out there, but we want to get the best 11 on the field. And I think when those back end guys can kind of roll around, you have the opportunity to do that a little more.
Erik, we've got into a lot of personnel discussion here, but if we just take a step back, how would you assess the overall improvement last year? I mean, what did you come away from the season? What did you think of it?
I think when you go back and watch all the film,
yes.
I don't like saying this, and nobody wants to hear it probably, but we're very close. And there's a lot of, and I don't mean close like what I mean is there's a guy that busts here and the bad shit happens, you know what I mean? And there's a guy that's out of his gap, or a guy that didn't get the call, or we had bad leverage on a tackle, but the thing is really close, and the guys, we're trying to pulling those cut-ups out and showing them those bad plays, what happened, and and they're sitting back there saying, well, that could have been easily correctable, and they're right, it could have been easily correctable. It wasn't. That's on me, number one. So we need to just get, and I think part of that is when we decided to go back and whatever you want to say, revamp the system or whatever, reinstall, we made the decision that we're going to lessen install in the spring. We're going to get really good at the things that we want to get good at. We're going to get people good at playing different positions. We want to play fast, and we want to play physical, and we want to have great knowledge of the system so we can communicate, so we can have proper leverage in tackles, and the guys can fly around a little bit more.
Collectively, did your coaching staff kind of come to that decision when Frost kind of said, this is what I think, or Lubick, or you have input there? Like, what was the impetus for saying, we got to dial this back and kind of dial into what we want?
No, I think, Coach Frost, obviously, when we all met, and I met with him, and I think before Coach Lubick was here, I think they want to do the same thing on offense, and he knew that we were going to, have a lot of young guys playing wherever on offense, however they see them. Obviously, in the skill positions, they'll probably have some young guys playing, and we're going to have some young guys playing. And so in the springtime, he wants a great foundation of the system, and he wants our guys to know exactly what they're doing in those base calls. Now, obviously, you got to put a little bit of stuff in so you can scrimmage on third down and all that kind of stuff, but let's put the base package in, and let's get really, really good at that. And on their offense, they're going to put the base package in. They're going to get really, really good at that. And then if that goes well, then in the fall we can build off that.
What position will that benefit most, do you think, on your defense, if it's be that way?
To me, it benefits everybody, really, because when you lessen the amount of verbiage, when you lessen the amount of quote-unquote defense calls, you can get a lot better at technique. And those guys can associate technique better with the limited amount of calls you have, instead of, sometimes when you get a ton of defense or a ton of offense, it's just memorization, and we're memorizing too much stuff. And then when things happen fast in the game, they're not firing on all cylinders. I think we want to get to the point where we're not memorizing anything. We're relying on technique. My technique in that defense is I'm a strong hook player. I'm a buzz reroute player. I'm a, whatever I am. So it doesn't matter what the offense does. This is my job. This is my technique. That's what I do. And I think that's kind of where he wants to get everything.
That outside linebacker position, you got the three guys that have the experience, Caleb and JoJo and Derek.
Yep.
Who's kind of the next guys in line that you really want to see up there with those three this spring?
You're gonna, you'll see a lot of guys. I mean, that was one of the places we had to pull some guys. Obviously, there's young guys, Blaze Gunnarsson and Jamari and Nico Cooper are coming in, Jamari Butler, and those guys we're gonna need to get a good look at them. And then behind them, Damian Jackson's got some reps out there. Javen Wright will take some reps out there along with being in the back end, so he's going to be a kind of a guy that's going to job swap. There's another group, but I'm not ready to say which one of those groups is going to step up, because we got to see those guys for about a week here.
So Wright will be kind of like a JoJo.
Yeah. Yep.
What do you see in him that leads you to believe he can do that? Is it size? What is it?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, he's a ridiculously smart player.
Is he?
Yeah, and you talking about Javen, right?
Javen.
Yeah, I mean, he can. he could tell you what all the guys did before I even pulled him into a different position. I mean, he's really, really smart. Has a great football knowledge. Second off, I mean, he's a very good-sized kid, and I think we can do whatever we want with him. If we decide that secondary and the back end is going to be the best position, I think he can stay lean and be a 205, 210-pound safety corner, whatever he needs to be.
So he can play safety or corner.
Yeah, and then if we have to move him down, if that's the position that we feel like is best coming out of spring and fall, I think Coach Duval can do a good job with him and get him up to 225, 230 pounds.
What's he at right now?
I think I'd be lying if I told you, but I'd say 205-ish.
6'3".
How does having Deontay back alone just change things? And I know you don't want to make excuses, but how did that shift everything right away last season when he got injured?
Well, I thought when he got injured, I thought he was playing as good a football as anybody on the defense for sure. And that hurt us a lot just because of his play, and also, Cam Taylor did a really good job for us, but he was a lot better when he was playing nickel and or corner, and then when he had to do all three, that became a lot for any kid. So having to move guys around and losing a really good player hurt, but having him back is awesome. He got out there like he's just like riding a bike. He was out there and making all the calls and flying around, so it was great to see him back.
When you summarize when you did your self-scouting on the linebackers as a whole, what was your takeaway? What's like, this has to change or improve?
Well, we need to play more physical, a lot more physical, at the line of scrimmage and off the line of scrimmage. We've got to do a better job of keying the QB in all of our zone coverage. And that's one group where limiting the calls will definitely help, because there's not going to be a ton of, their techniques are limited a lot. Instead of doing a whole bunch of crazy stuff, I think we've tweaked some things where they don't have to be walked out of the box and really becoming a safety or a nickel. They can stay in their box. They're going to have to some, but they're going to be able to stay in their box, and the technique is going to be limited a lot for them.
Nick Henrich, has he been able to kind of really grow with the injury last year, but come back late? What do you see from him?
No, he did a great job. We played him in special teams at the end of the year when he was able to come back, and I think that he's going to have a really good season. I think he's a good football player. He's a smart football player. I think Coach Rue's done a great job with him. Him and Luke Reimer gave us a lot of reps last year on teams, and obviously Luke got in at the end of the game, a lot of games, Ohio State and Maryland and those types of things. So I think those two guys are going to have a really good year.
Last year you played just 3 inside guys, which is a lot. Could you see that group around 5 or 6 game-ready guys this year?
Yeah, definitely. I think you need to have 4, and definitely probably a 5th. You'd want, you kind of want that 4-man rotation with the 5th guy that's, ready to swing on both positions. But I think when you'd only have 4, that's another. Not to make an excuse for anybody, but when you have to play Will and Mike, right? Whether you're that swing guy or you're having to rotate all 3, that's guys that are playing 2 positions. I know it just seems like, they're playing inside linebacker, but they're not. They're playing Will and Mike. And so when you can really say, you're the number 1 Will, you're the number 1 Mike, you're the number 2 Will, you're the number 2 Mike, they can really hone in on those a little bit. Now, obviously, if you have 3 guys that are, above everybody, one of those guys is going to have to be a swing guy and learn both positions, but you'd love to have those guys just being able to play one.
What is this? Speaking of narrowing down positions, so what is the ideal role for someone like Cam Taylor Britt, who's so valuable to the defense?
I think he's a really, really, really good corner, and really good corners, when you got to put him at safety, that's not a good deal, because the corners are too valuable. And, depending on what you're doing with that nickel job, a slot corner can be just as valuable as a island corner.
All right.
So I think a guy like him it's not like he's not valuable no matter where he's at, But when you have really good corners, those are
So
pretty
corner
bad.
or slot corner?
Yeah.
Like pure corner or slot corner?
Right.
Idea. Can that happen this year?
I think so. And like we talked about with Deontay coming back, Markel's back, Deontay's back. You got some young guys in there. Miles Farmer, just to throw a name out there, and along with some of these other young guys, if you can get that safety depth, just like inside linebacker, to 3 or 4, then Cam can stay out there and he can play corner and he can play in that slot if he needs to.
Yeah, and that affects Braxton Clark,
Sure.
obviously. So those guys just got to compete.
Absolutely. And, that's you'd like to be in your, however you want to use JoJo as a nickel or that outside linebacker type character, but you'd love to be able to get it to where if you really want to cover somebody down, you got 2 real corners on the edge and you got 1 real corner in the slot.
Is Boodle pure corner now, or how do you look at Boodle?
Yeah, and I think to me, DiCaprio is one of the rare guys that can slide back and forth and not miss a beat. He's just really, really football intelligent. So I think that he can slide back and forth, but I think if we can build that depth at safety, he'll be able to stay at corner also. I'd love to keep him and Cam at corner and then battle it out, and the young guys, and you got Braxton, like you said, you got Quentin Newsome, and then you got some freshmen coming in. So it'd be nice to see those guys kind of battle it out there.
Okay. What's the next step that JoJo's game can take? I think he was second on your team in tackles for loss last year, so he made some plays. But he also didn't speak about some of the mistakes he made and the frustrations he had on his own career. What's the next step he can take? And how much better can he get?
I think he can be a lot better, and that's something I talked to him about. And obviously, there's things that he needs to do different, but JoJo's as good as he wants to be. And right now, he's got to focus, and that'll help him kind of knowing what his role is early and being able to narrow that down, but him focusing and coming to practice every day and starting to make some of those calls and be verbal and be sure about his job and limiting his mental errors will dramatically change his game. And even though it appears a lot on the outside like he's making a lot of plays, which he definitely is, but there's things that don't get seen probably that can really help our team.
I mean, some of the plays he made were just frankly freelance.
There's no doubt.
Doing stuff he probably shouldn't have been doing and running into making a play.
There's
how,
no doubt.
How frustrating? I'm sure you want the play to be made, right? But is it frustrating as a coach when you have a guy that can do some of those things and yet doesn't always do the things that
I mean, it's great when it works, but when it doesn't, and then the play goes for 40, and then everybody wonders why. That's when it's not good. So what they say, you give them 6 inches of rope and they think they're a cowboy. So we just gotta everybody on the team needs to take, in my opinion, not just JoJo, everyone on our defense needs to take bigger ownership in my job. And I know that phrase gets thrown around a lot and Bill Belichick's famous for it, but what is your job? Get your job done. We've been putting a big-time emphasis. We've only watched an hour worth of film, but really taking off everything, grading every practice like a game. Missed assignments, mental error, missed tackle, loaf, tip ball, strip. So we're going to really grade these guys because I think, maybe we get a lot of reps in practice. I think we had over 100. I know we had over 100 today. And so sometimes you don't get to watch all that film with the kids. You can't. It's not possible. So sometimes guys don't understand how poor or how well it really went. And so I'm going to put it up in front of everybody tomorrow, and here it was, boys. Sip's got 85 loaves. Yeah.
So who was the guy last year, whether they're on the team anymore or they're not, who's better at doing the job than maybe we realized? Whether they were guys that just left or guys that are there now.
Guys are better at doing their job than you realize. I mean, like one guy that, to be honest with you, doesn't make a lot of mistakes is Markel Dismuke. And mental errors, physical errors. Is there some physical errors out there? Sure. Was there a missed tackle? Yeah, absolutely. But mental mistakes, he's pretty sharp, and he gets guys lined up. Cam Taylor does. DiCaprio, that's probably the number one guy. like I don't know if everybody understands how much he helped us last year when, moving Cam to safety, and then Cam was really good, but he had only played corner and nickel throughout spring, fall camp, and then he gets moved to safety. To ask DiCaprio to go do that and him do it seamlessly was an unbelievable act of selflessness for him, for our team. And I don't think he gets enough credit for going in there and making all the calls and doing the job that he did. And does he have as many splash plays? Probably not, but what he did and got everybody else lined up was really unbelievable.
And Caleb Tanner's a junior now. I mean, is there a point now where you're like, look, man, you're not young anymore. We need you to turn the page and be a guy?
Absolutely. And I think he's going to be a guy, and he's going to have to help us, and he's going to have to help us early. And if he can't, then, once you get to be that junior age, if you can't help anymore, then some of the young guys got to get a shot. So he's going to have a nice spring ball here to show us he can do it, and he's either going to or he's not.
Has Coach Dawson really kind of tried to find ways to challenge him more?
Yeah, I think they had a heart-to-heart when he first got here, and I think Caleb responded well today. So,
how eager have you been for this moment to see those 2019 guys now kind of enter the competition?
Yeah, it's been good. It's been really good, and that first group was good, but it was thrown together pretty quickly. Obviously, we got here, and then that second group is kind of the group that, there's obviously more of them still here and all that kind of thing. So watching those two groups kind of grow up the last year or so and getting them some meaningful reps this year as they can go with the ones and twos is exciting.
Ty Robinson, they talk a lot about his growth. What do you like about what Ty's done in the offseason?
He's done a nice job with his body. I mean, he's well over 300 pounds now, and he looks great. He cares about football. He cares about being at Nebraska. So I know he's all in. And, just through, like I said, an hour worth of film, he's looked like he's made dramatic improvements. Ty was a guy last year where don't know if he really understood what it meant to play hard all the time. Don't know if he knew exactly what was going on because there was just some, craziness going on out there. You saw the talent. You saw that when he did what he was supposed to do, he's making plays, he's in the backfield. I mean, you know that there was talent there. You just don't know, does he understand what it's like to play in college football where you're not the biggest and the best anymore and play hard every rep, and does he fully understand what we're asking him to do within the frame of the defense? Now, on both those things, I know he does.
Where's Keem Green at? I mean, even compared with when he got here.
Yeah, Keem had an unbelievable offseason, first and foremost. He looks great, and he was moving really well in all of our winter conditioning. And so far, he seems like he's about a million miles from where he was last year.
Jordan Riley has opened eyes, too. That's what a lot of people say today. What do you like about Jordan?
Yeah, verdict's still out for me on him because, like I said, we watched a period and a half, so I think I've seen him maybe take 6 or 7 reps so far, but he's a good-looking defensive lineman. That's what you want him to look like. He did well in the winter conditioning program, and I know he spent a lot of time working with Coach Tony Tuioti and our graduate assistant Tony Washington. I see him up there every morning, like 7 in the morning, trying to get help and asking if they can, go through some things with him. So I think it means a lot to him too, and obviously he's got some meaningful reps in Power 5 football already. So I think he's going to be a guy that, if he does what he's supposed to, you guys will be talking a lot about him here.
So what do you think of the narrative that there's just going to be a natural drop off in that front three because of what you lost, those veterans?
Yeah, I don't know. If you listen to the fans and you talk like the fans, you become a fan, right? So I don't listen to. I don't know about the drop off. I know we got kids that we really like that we recruited that have done a great job since they've been here. And could there be a drop off? Sure. Could there be improvement? Sure. Could it be the same? Sure. But I like the group we got, and I think I'm very encouraged by watching them so far. So give me about 2 weeks, and I'll let you know a little bit more. But I'm hoping for big things out of that group.
They're bigger guys. The Davis twins tested out of this world at the combine. But would you say that size-wise, they're typically the guys you recruit are bigger players than Carlos?
Yeah,
Not to knock them.
Carlos and Khalil, they did an unbelievable job at the combine. But you look at the combine numbers in there, that a lot of the guys were trending towards more what the guys that we have now. They're 6'4", 6'5" guys. Carlos and Khalil are exceptional athletes. I mean, exceptional. So they're going to have a nice career in the NFL because of their athleticism, and obviously they can carry a lot of weight and they're powerful and all those type of things. This next crew we have coming is long. They're all 300-pound kids plus, a lot of length and a lot of athletic ability. And the thing about the length and the athletic ability is when your playing radius increases, the chance for error decreases. When you're not as long, it's hard to make up some things when you get cut out of a gap or you get a bad jump or something like that. It's hard, but when you're longer, you can get away with some stuff. Now, Carlos and Khalil, obviously, the exceptional athleticism helped them decrease their chance for error. These guys are, because of their playing radius, is going to decrease their chance of error.
From the defensive line to the secondary, how much length have you added when you just kind of look over from year 1 now to year 3? Because I know year 1 you guys weren't, you wanted to be with that. I mean, how much do you feel like you're at where you want to be, or it's going that way?
It's trending that way for sure. Yeah, I think we've gotten a lot longer on all 3 levels, to be honest with you, which is good. I don't know if it'll ever be where we want it, but it's getting closer to what it's supposed to look like.
What have you seen from Scott just since the season ended, and getting everybody together and the dedication to improving this thing, just to get in that role?
Yeah, I think this was, things happened so quickly the first year and a half, and I think this was the first time where he can kind of sit back and he kind of evaluate each phase. And I'm not just talking about offense, defense, special teams. I'm talking about every phase of the program as far as, everything: recruiting, offense, defense, special teams, strength and conditioning, just the whole program-wide. This is the first time where he can really evaluate everything and see where he wants to make tweaks and how we want to do it, or how can we just make things better. Even if you're a championship organization, I think you always got to be pushing the margins a little bit. And I think this is the first time since he's been at Nebraska where he's been able to get that done the way he wants to.
Thank you, Coach.
All right. Thanks, guys.